My name is Cheris Ervin. I'm born and raised in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I went to Rock Hill High School. I'm a Bearcat all day. Left there in '88. I've been in Charlotte. I've been in Charlotte maybe 31 years. Traveled a lot. With me being before I settled in Charlotte, I traveled a lot. I think I kind of bopped around a little bit, New York, LA, Baltimore, places like that, and then came to come home. Charlotte's my home. My family's right down the street, and I ain't leaving my mama. You know what I'm saying? So I had to do that. Okay. The Lil Homie Project is a mental health organization geared towards working with the youth and young adults. I originally planned for it to be ages 18 to 28. I'd say 18 to 25 for men, 18 to 28 for women. Mental health normally comes around and shines its ugly face around 17, 18, 19 on up for men and women. So I geared it towards utilizing the benefits of my background benefits towards them at that age. But when I started to tell people about my program and the excitement that I get from other people and hearing from school systems, CMS, that they needed me in the middle school. So meaning that, kids were being bullied, and you got all these other crazy things that do happen in school systems, that they would like for me to come to middle school and high school, maybe be part of the program, maybe work with some kids, have some conversations about it, about mental health awareness. So when they are in the 18, 19, 20 years old or so, and they try to figure out what's going on with their mind and their body, they wouldn't be so shocked of what their changes and the transitions are. So what we're going to do, the Lil Homie Project, we're going to establish I would say it's going to be music, and it's going to be through therapy. In order to work with the program that we've designed, you will have to be in some way, shape, or form in a musical setting, interest, artistic area. It could be rapping, singing, painting, poetry, anything like that. And once you refer it to me, we would then have you evaluated with one of our counselors that is on our staff. And once that evaluation takes place, and we decide, hey, there'll be a good fit that person would then come in to work with us, and we would pattern that person along with a musical person in industry, and then we would work with them through a 7-week program that we designed. My son's a musician. His name was Lil Homie Project. He passed away January 24th, 2016. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2014. But the changes that he was also musically inclined, of course, I was working at a record label and seeing how talented he was. So he got into music that way because I was, invested in that label. But when the label went away is when I started seeing the changes with him, and the changes were very verbal, very disrespectful, something I didn't expect, and the thought that nobody ever loved him, things like that, was a sign of just some kind of disorder. So when I realized what his situation was, taking him to the doctor and whatnot, we realized that he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder with mania, if I'm saying it correctly. So with that being said, things happen the way they happen as far as him utilizing drugs and alcohol to cope with his drugs and cope with his mental health issues instead of taking medication. Nothing I could say to him would change his mind about taking the medication, or that we loved him, or that that if something ever happened to him, that people would just would have a hard time dealing with it, because he's such a big life, a force of life. So with that being said, the alcohol and drugs took over, and one day he took too much and just wouldn't wake up. And I think it's part of that, the fentanyl and the opioid things that's going on in the state of the world now. But I think that when this happened to him, it was the opioid addiction and crisis was really starting to peak around 2016, and he got caught up in that area. And with that, when he left, I vowed to say, hey, you know what? He was way too talented to go too soon. He had a story to tell. He had a lot of things that he needed to do. His goal was to always have his own studio. His goal was always to take care of me and the family, so we wouldn't have to work. That's all he ever said. And he wanted to do that on the music platform. I said to him before he left, that I would make sure that his life didn't go in vain, and they would know who he was, what he was doing here, and why he was doing here. And so the Lil Homie Project was born. We had our first one in June on his birthday. His birthday is June 17th. He was what, 91? So I don't know how that would be today, but June 17th, 1991. So we do it every year. We've done it every year except the pandemic year. That sucked, but we've been consistent and we've grown. I'm proud of it. Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, give us his full name.
Daryl Desmond Ervin. That's good. Thank you for asking about that. He was a very, very good kid. when I birthed him, he didn't come in crying. He didn't cry. I was in pain. When he came out, they laid him on my chest. He looked at me a couple times, the wink, like the babies do. And he just looked at me. He's like, "Oh, okay, that's you." And I'm like, "Oh, you're here." He's like, "Yeah, I'm here." All right. And that was cool. And he literally stayed that way. He was always quiet, everybody loved him. Even 2-3 years old, he was just very cosmetic with his family. But what I realized with the quietness, he was just being sneaky. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, he's a sweet kid. Like, yeah, okay. But then they'll come back and they'll be like, "No, Darren did this." I said, "Well, when did he do it?" "I didn't see it." You know what I mean? Like, he would do it, but then he ain't getting ready to tell you he did it. You're not going to find, you got to go research and see what he did and ask questions, because you're not going to see anything. Okay, that was like that all the way up into the 3rd grade. And I'll say about 3rd or 4th grade, he started being a regular kid. You know, that regular kid thing is like, we say beating his friends for the first time in Hickory Grove Elementary School. Him, Kareem, and who was it? It was a couple other people. Derek, Jonathan. They were all met at Hickory Grove Elementary School, and literally they just started acting a fool. When I say they was a mess, they was just tearing that whole school up. And one day the lady came to me and said, "We need to test him. Let's test your son. Let's see why he don't have to study to get good grades." This is at 3rd grade. So we tested him and they said his IQ, his IQ was up there, but we was seeing that we was going to see how high it would go. But I guess he was a smart kid, but he was more artistic than smart. He wasn't fit for a classroom, so he was having a problem with the classroom being indoors all the time. And the one teacher, her name was Miss Coke, gave him the worst time. And I tried to talk to that lady a few times. He's a good kid this time. He just didn't like her. So eventually, he got out of 3rd grade, went on to the 4th grade, and he became, a better student at that point. But eventually, leading on up to middle school and on into high school, I realized that he's going to always be charismatic. He was always going to be, people going to be attracted to him, his personality, the smile, the fun, and the jokes. And he never really going to be a caged in school type person. So with that being said, around 14, 15 is when he started liking rap music. And I think his first CD I ever bought him was The Block Is Hot by Lil Wayne, which is why I chose that song I put on the flyer the other day. It was like, I can't remember what the song it was, but if you see it, you can go on Instagram, you'll see it. But his two CDs, our first CD I ever bought was Block Is Hot by Lil Wayne, and You Know Me with T.I. So that was his 2 people growing up. He was like, okay, I'm Lil Wayne. So literally, that's the way he behaved. I think around that was probably about 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. That's when he started liking the rap music. And then when I started working at the record label, I realized that he could write. He had all kept books of writing, just writing. And kids write. So I'm not thinking that he's going to be Lil Homie one day. I'm just my son writing. Who kid don't like to rap? You know what I mean? So when he did with me starting being laid off from my job and being on unemployment, and my sister contacted me and said, "Hey, my friend from LA, they need someone to help them start a business. Didn't you go to school for business starters to show people how to start their business from the ground floor up, nonprofit, for-profit?" I was like, "Yeah, I did it. I can help them. What do they need?" And they said, "Well, they just need structure. Can you help them with structure?" So I met Lo. His name is Tavares, but we called him Lo. And also his name was Big Homie, which is where Daryl got his name. Big Homie, Lil Homie. They named after him. So Big Homie asked me to come in and help, and I did. I structured the core of the business as far as the legalities of it. Once the business was up and running, I assumed that I was just going to go because my job's over. But I became his personal assistant and also his day-to-day operations manager for the studio, and I did that for 5 years. Daryl got in trouble at school one day, and at this time he was probably in 9th grade. Yeah, about 9th grade. Yeah, he just started high school. He got in trouble one day, and so I went home and I was fussing at him, and he had to do some tests or something like that the next day. I said, boy, if you go to school and you behave and you pass this test, I'm gonna take you to the studio because he's always wanted to go with me to work. Let me take the studio, Mom. Let me in the studio. Let me in. Come on, man. Let me in the studio. I'm like, man, all right, you do good at school this day. I'm gonna let you in the studio. I'll let you in the studio. So he did good the next day, and I was like, oh wow, like shit. Now I got to do it. Excuse my French. So now I got to go to this little dude and his homeboy joined. Oh, here they go. They about what little itty bitty beatbox. Well, we go to the studio. We go around the other big artists because he had these two P&B. Poppin' Bullets was there, and then Mo Diamonds, and the label already had some nice people, some people from LA and all these other places. So when Lil Homie come in there, at this time his name was Daryl, who came in, he met with Keys. Keys is a producer that was from LA. I don't know if he still lives here in Charlotte or not, but they became good friends. And that day that we went in the studio, he said, well, I already wrote the song. I wrote the song that, I got a song that I'm thinking about getting in the studio to write about or whatever. So we took him there. And this is literally, and what you got to understand is this is the first time I ever took him to the studio. Okay, he ain't never been in the studio. He's never recorded. That was the kicker. I was not prepared for what he was getting ready to do. So he went into the studio. He met Keys. I didn't even think nothing of it. Dropped him off. Actually, I was still at work. I think I was coming and going. And then when I came back, they said, boy, why you been bringing this little dude around here? I was like, what you mean? I said, man, this little dude came in here, had something written on the paper, and he told me the beats, the music that he heard in his head. I said, what you mean? He said, we just went into the keyboard. He said, because I didn't have any beat for him. He didn't like nothing that I had. He said, that's not what I hear. He said, so they went in the studio and they started playing with the keyboards. And the keyboards, all you hearing is, I guess he heard the ding, 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 this, that, and the other, whatever he heard. And Keys would put it together for him. And they finally finished the production of the beat that he was making. So then after he sat there and listened to the music over and over again, Daryl began to write. And when he finished, he went in the studio, and I think he recorded it in like maybe 2 or 3 takes. And from then on, he would never stay no more than, he'd take him maybe 15, 20 minutes to write a hook. He was the hook writer. Anything that he would write for different people that worked at the label. He would just help them with different words. He would get on that track with them. And the Hateaway became like everything. It was everywhere. It got him on a couple of tours. It just happened so quickly. It had to be meant to be. You know what I mean? So that was probably 15. Yeah, 15 is when we really started pushing the Hateaway. He hit a lot of skating rinks where people would book us at different locations, and then he started touring with Akon and Young Bird. Who else did he tour with? Lloyd, Lil Webby. I think the other young man was locked up at the time, so he toured him. He toured with Lil Wayne. They used to have the Ozone Awards. We went to the Ozone Awards. This is when he met Jock and he met everybody there. We formed our community there, and that's when I realized the music industry is really small. It's really, you keep running to the same people over and over again because they really can't go to a lot of places where they're comfortable unless they're with their peers. So we became part of the crew of everyone. So he started to go without me, which was, they've been trying to get that from me for a long time. I did not like that because it was only like 15. So when they started shooting the video for the Hateaway, he had to wear the pink shirt because he had to do it in a strip club. So without me being there. So he from the Hateaway to all the other songs, I think Daryl may have over, I don't know, how many songs you think Daryl got, Sky? I think he got like, how many things you think? He about like 100 songs I think he has. Maybe more that I have on CD right now that I have not released. I have had people that want the music, they will love the music, but my whole intention was to utilize Lil Homie songs for Lil Homie Project. It will be released when we are releasing ourselves into the industry, I plan to utilize the young adults that'll be a part of LHP to utilize the music that he has and to renew it, to bring it up to where we are and to elevate the Lil Homie Project. I'm not going to give it away, you know what I mean? And that's what people were trying to do. But thank you for asking me about that, because that's something I want to get out there, is that we don't think about mental health until mental health happens to you. You think, when you think of mental health, you think about mental health, you think about the homeless people walking down the street. You think, oh, that's mental health. No, that's not just mental health. And sometimes we're not even aware that's what we're experiencing is mental health. And I had to learn that. I had to slow down and realize that something was wrong with my son. And one day I was driving, and it's not funny, you know, and it's a little derogatory, because when it came out of my mouth, and I said it out loud with my homegirl in the car. We was on our way out somewhere. We was going to eat somewhere. TGI Fridays, that was one of our favorite things. And my son blew me up that night, just calling. What the? And I'm looking on the phone like, this boy calls me so much. He got to get entire shoes without me. I mean, damn, I might as well have a child with Down syndrome. Just meaning somebody I have to take care of 24 hours. When it came out my mouth, that's when I knew something was wrong. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's when I realized, wait a minute, that's not normal. You know, and you just think that some people look at their kids and, oh, my kids is bad, they bad. No, you need to pay attention to what you're calling bad. Some kids are mischievous, yes, but some kids are crying out for help. That's why we're having school shootings and things right now, because they are crying out for help. And when those school shootings happen, something was happening way before then. So we need to stop as parents. I want to say that for a long time, I tried to ignore the extraness that I was experiencing with him, the extra verbal, just the extraness. I'm like, oh, it'll be okay, it's just a phase, you know. And then that day in the car with her, when he was blowing me up and asked me so many questions about something, I don't even remember the conversation what it was. And when I said what I said about, dang, I might as well have somebody that has a serious handicap, right? And when I said that, that's when I knew. So I had to stop and check myself, and that's when I started paying more attention, because I always said when I was young, being in the type of environment that I grew up in, you know, my father's alcoholic and things like that, having to deal with things and wanting parents to be a certain way, because we always want to be better than our parents, because that's what your parents drive you to be. And I said, no, I'm going to always cater my kids towards their strengths. Whatever strength I see that they have, I'm going to pursue it. That, my daughter's was education, my son's was music. So when I seen an issue, I had to stop. I had to pay attention. I was not going to be that woman, that mother, and that woman that did not pay attention to their child. So I instantly started asking more questions. Why you do that? Why you think this? And so Daryl started to ask questions. It would say things like, "You don't love me. Don't nobody love me. Grandma don't love me." I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you crazy? You sound crazy as hell." You know, I literally like, "Are you serious? Everybody loves you. No, you don't know how crazy. Everybody loves you, boy." You know, but he felt like they didn't love him because he would come around and he would get drunk and he would say something derogatory. He would try to start a fight, or he started acting out and telling me, "Oh, I did this to somebody," and he never seen that person. Or he would say, one day he told me that, "Mama," he run in the house, "Mama, I think I shot somebody." Literally, it's a true story. I think he was this is around 18. Yeah, about 18. He came maybe 18, 19 years old. He said, Mom, I think I hurt somebody. I think I shot somebody." And I'm like, "What happened?" It was behind the store. It was behind the store. I'm like, "What store?" You know, and I'm like, okay, well, me being a parent, I know this ain't right, and I know probably know people gonna be like, "What did you do?" I put my son in the car. I took him across to the state line to my mother's house, because I had to do my research. Because if something was going on with him like that, I needed to know, and I need to find out, and I need to be able to prepare to take care of it, to take care of him and whatever's going on. So when I took him there, I went back home and you know, started watching the TV. But let me go back a little bit. When he came in the house telling me that, he came in the house, he was muddy. He looked like he had been fell down or somewhere. There was no blood or nothing, but he had been fighting or something, maybe, or something like that. And he just wasn't making sense, you know what I mean? And so I put him in the car, and I took him down. My daughter was, Sky, do you remember the day we were driving, and we picked him up, and he was talking to somebody? I don't know if you remember correctly. You may be too little. Anyway, I was driving. This is the day that I took him to Rock Hill. I was trying to find him, but somebody said he was acting up or whatever. And this is something that never happened. This was one of the first events, so I really knew I had to get some help. He was walking down the street, and I pulled over, and I said, "Get in the car. What is wrong with you?" And he was literally talking to somebody. I don't know who, and I'm like, well, "Who are you talking to?" And he didn't have a phone right at that point. So he got in the car. That's when he told me that what happened. He thinks happened. I took him to South Carolina. My cousin and I got him cleaned up and everything. And I'm worried. I'm looking at the TV thinking something's going to be on it. I went home. 1 day went by. 2 days went by. Nothing happened. It was all in his head. It was mania.
So
I never knew what mania was.
Before the diagnosis or after?
Before.
Before?
Yeah.
So like when did? Well, you said it was after.
It was after.
When was that moment when was that moment when you decided to take, when they had diagnosed, like when did you kind of like, okay, let me go actually see what's really going on? Just like you were saying earlier, there's things that go on with little kids even when they're as early as kindergarten, and you should sometimes teachers try to say, hey, this child may need this.
Oh, you mean in school age maybe?
Not in the school age, but like whatever age, I guess was it 18?
I started really seeing everything around, around 18, 19.
So was it this, the incident that happened, or when did you decide to take as far as when they had to decide to diagnose him?
That incident. This incident was he had already had symptoms prior to this incident. It was verbal. I would come in the house and you need to clean up the house, and I ain't cleaning up shit. You know what I mean? And fuck you and to have you. My son's never called me out my name. He's never behaved that way at all. I don't know. It came out of nowhere. I know most kids are always mad at the parents, of course, because we're the disciplined ones. We're the one that's in that position, the authority. And he didn't like it, So he would be a regular adult and you not like it as a teen, but as he got older, it became more violent verbally. He would never put his hands on me, anything like that. But he would literally curse me out on a regular basis. I would come out and we'd get in an argument. I'm headstrong too, so so I took it for a while, but then I eventually start cursing back, thinking that's gonna make it. Maybe I just need to trump him, maybe curse him back out hard, you know what I mean? And so we would just go back ahead, bump heads on a regular basis. I'm tough, no, I'm tough, we were just like going back and forth. But then even though in all of that, I wanted to show him, you can curse at me, but I'm mama, and I ain't going nowhere. So the things that happened before that event, one thing that I want to say is he called me, and I was at a friend's house that night. I was spending the night over at my friend's house, and he called me at 3 o'clock in the morning and told me that he was running through bushes because somebody was chasing behind him. And I had to get up and go pick him up because somebody was chasing him. I went and picked him up. I don't know if anybody was chasing him that night, but I went and took him home. Things like that started happening. And then the day that he was muddy and all like that, I got afraid because I felt like he was going to be a harm to himself. And maybe others. I didn't know. I just know that something wasn't right, especially when he said he hurt somebody. He didn't. So that's when that happened, and it made me take him to protect him, to take him away. I knew that I had to get him there. And I took him to the hospital, and that was a whole event in itself to try to get him diagnosed. Well, the first thing that I want to bring awareness to the parents. I want the parents like me. I've had maybe 10 women already reach out to me and said, I need help with my son. I heard about your son. What did you do? What did you see? How did you know? And that's something that touched my heart. And I said, we need to know. We need to educate ourselves to talk to each other and see, is it something that another woman, another person can tell you to take care of your son and your daughter. And so with that being said, I wanted to create a olive branch to other women that are dealing with kids like my son was. And I want to be able to give them the information that I didn't know, how helpless I felt. I wanted them to know that I felt helpless the medication, not medication, the hospital system and the mental health system does not allow us as parents to help our kids after 18. And I was powerless. I couldn't help, I couldn't dictate, I couldn't maneuver, I couldn't go into his appointments with him. And I needed them to know that at an early stage, when you see it, act on it. Put paperwork in place to protect your child. If you need to have and not saying a Britney Spears type of work, I would like to see government put a Daryl's law is was something that I'm working on next, is bringing a law for that would allow us as parents that when they're going through their mania or their mental health episode, that we have legally paper that says I have to come with him to the hospital. You have to come pick him up because this is what I need you to do. And you can talk to him with me in the room, or you're gonna have to explain to me the conversation that you had. Not with them in the room maybe, but kind of sort of when you walk away, you know, patient confidentiality it goes with that. So he couldn't tell me what the doctor says because he didn't remember. He was bipolar, he was in mania, you know, when they talked about what his diagnosis was. So I wanted the parents to know that this is what's gonna happen if you don't have something in place. And I want something to be in place, and being able to put Daryl's law paperwork in place, I'm hoping it'll help that part of it. I would like to also let the young adults know that when you start at that age, start hearing something that you know that you shouldn't be hearing, or you start feeling one day that nobody loves you and yesterday you felt fine, that's not normal. And I want them to know and how to identify that they're having issues. And I want them to know that it's okay to have those issues, and it's okay to talk about those issues. It's not okay not to talk about the issues because it's not going to help you. And if you want the help, you know, people like me are out here, and you don't have to tell everybody what issues you got going on, but know you're not by yourself, and know that you're loved. Every day, somebody loves you. No matter what you say, they're not going to stop loving you.